You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the middle of the week. It's Wednesday all day long. But you know what that means? It's hump day. We got to talk to the camel. Play it, man.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woohoo! Yes, it is. It is hump day. You are halfway to the weekend. We're glad of it. We're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday. Y'all stay with us. Rightside Radio will be with you each day along the way. So anyway, pushing buttons ably on the board would be the JP. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Did you say you've been dabbling in sound effect country again? You've been making new sound effects again?
I'm in another one, yeah.
Are we going to have to play it after we get through with the monologue and all that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's worthy of it.
From what you told me, it sounds like it is. All right, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. You know the deal. It's 4 o'clock on Wednesdays. If we play the camel to begin the show, then that means towards the end of the show, we have the Grand Council. So the Grand Council with two of my brethren in talk radio, Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson, they both come on. We ping each other with questions, and we just see where the chips fall. But that's coming up at 4 o'clock, Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson and little old me. And then I got a triple dipper still filled up with stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So first out the gate, how about this? Can we just please identify as Americans? There you go. I don't care what all the liberals think they identify as. How about this? Officially speaking, we identify as Americans. Can we just do that? We're going to talk about why it is that liberals are willing to tell good businesses to take down the American flag, but they want to fly the rainbow flag on the embassies. I mean, these things are nuts. We're going to talk about it for a few minutes. Identify as Americans. How hard is that? That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, no sanctuary. There is no sanctuary. There is no sanctuary for illegal alien criminals in the United States right now, and there shouldn't be. But there are still cities, to include right here in Alabama, that are all about the idea of sanctuary. Well, I got news. That's called breaking the law. And there's no sanctuary now. We're going to talk about how that all pans out. Number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, well, the governor of Alabama gave her State of the State address last night. Some things came out of that. I watched part of it this morning. And then we had any number of things that happened in the legislative processes in Tennessee and Alabama. And, oh, by the way, there's a few news stories we might want to look at. So, you know the thing, every once in a while, we got to cook them up. We're going to do a second helping of home fries. That's coming up at number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, well, let me jump on in here to my Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that the Rightside Way monologue brought to you every day by attorney Stan McDonald. He's a law firm, partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee, sponsor daily of the Rightside Way, and I'll tell you more about Stan here in a few minutes. Okay, if you really want to freak someone out, one of your naysayers, if you really want to freak them out, tell them you don't care what happens to you as long as the victory's achieved. I mean, really what you're saying there, naysayers won't know what to do with it. What I'm talking about is folks who have a broader view of the world. They never really know what to make if you come at them all the time and say, it is not about me, it's about something bigger than me. So people who don't have that broad view of the world, they get lost when statesmen will actually say something like, it's not about me. Because most naysayers, they're the ones who, they have only a single issue in mind. They only see one way to handle the issue. It's usually their way or the highway. They don't get it when someone comes along who is willing and able to put in the time, the sacrifice, the hardship to make things better for more than just themselves. And in politics, those people that I'm talking about who are willing to accomplish the big stuff that means more than just their own petty re-election efforts or little districts, they're called statesmen. Now, oftentimes that strength to, pursue something bigger, it comes from having been in a fight. It comes from having verged from a fight and emerged intact. You learn from it, right? You grow from it. You realize you can get hit and still keep moving. Overcoming adversity, it makes you appreciate what you have all the more, and it creates a different view, a view that things can get done. Big things that some people recoil from because they still fear getting hit. That's why it's so important for like a football team to practice in full pads and trade blows on the practice field so they don't avoid the hits that they need to endure to win the game. That's why boxers have sparring partners, so they learn how to trade blows for the big match. That's why General Norman Schwarzkopf said, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in war. And in politics, the ability to trade those blows and stick to your guns, that's what changes somebody from a politician to a statesman. So yesterday I told you about the Alabama legislature being in session for day one of the 2025 regular session. And last night, Governor Ivey gave her State of the State address in the old House chamber in the Capitol building. I've been there many times. Tennessee's legislature gavelled in a couple of weeks ago in a special session to tackle school choice. Yesterday, too, Tennessee also passed state-level immigration laws going to the governor's desk. All across the nation, state elected officials are doing what they do, debating good bills, stopping bad bills, passing budgets, all the stuff. And I can tell you from experience that there will be political machinations that make no sense at times. There will be state legislators who can't see past the nose on their faces. And there will be some who will only do what the lobbyists tell them to do. But I also know this, and I know it for a fact. I know from experience, there will be some who will take to the respective floor of the House or Senate in their state with a statesmanlike attitude of doing what is right for the greater good because that's who they are. And the ones who don't have that view, the ones who don't have that statesmanlike view, they're often the ones who didn't become stronger by virtue of having a good fight. Either A, they got whooped one time and now they're gun shy, or B, they never really been in a fight. So they don't have any idea how to trade blows when the opposition comes in swinging, and they back down too easy. And too many of the Republicans in our state's supermajorities, even right here in Alabama, are in that second group. They've had the joy of being large and in charge for their whole time in office, and they have no idea what it really means to have a good fight and to stand their ground on behalf of the greater good. A few years back, there were a class of freshman legislators, men and women, who came into the Alabama House and Senate having endured one of the most brutal campaign seasons in Alabama history. It was called the Republican Wave of 2010, and I talked about it yesterday. I was a part of it. The Tea Party was active. A grassroots effort like never before in our state was just plain tired of corruption and the Democrats who had controlled the state house for 136 straight years. But that election season, y'all, it was a slugfest. The teachers union especially fought, and they often fought dirty. Like I said, I was proud to be part of that wave, and I know for a fact that those of us who overcame the nastiness of those elections, we were better prepared then for the fights that came afterward. And we were willing to stand our ground because we knew what it meant to go toe-to-toe on things. I know one guy who won his election by just a margin, a narrow margin, despite the fact that his opponent paid strippers to show up at his front door trying to trap him. I personally had supporters have their businesses threatened if they put up my signs. But we fought battles, and the ones that came after as they tried to dox our families and our businesses and harass us for daring to have a statesman-like view of how to fix our state. I could tell you story after story about men and women that I served with who came to the Capitol already battle-scarred, with the desire to pursue a different agenda, a broader agenda, a statesman's agenda. But it only came when we knuckled down and got into the fight, and then we lived to fight another day. And like I said, the teachers union, man, it was the absolute worst. Often coached its members out of a position of fear, and so they would lash out with the most ridiculous, unfounded attacks, and when they didn't get us to cow down, then they would often resort to personal attacks. I cannot tell you how many times I was verbally accosted for daring to suggest a different version of the budget, or a different way of handling education, or considering how we might want to save public retirement that was on the verge of collapse when I got elected. The mantra from the teachers union was always the same. It was, do what we want or we'll make sure you never get reelected. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? My response used to tick them off to no end, because I would often reply, sometimes in writing. I'd sit there and type it out in emails. They'd threaten me with an email, and I'd type back and say, I didn't get elected to get reelected. I'm going to do what I believe is right. Well, I'd love to take credit for that statement, by the way, but I can't. I learned to say that from another real statesman, somebody who had been through the fire, somebody who had even lost elections and then pushed for unpopular things at times because he knew there was a bigger plan to push for, a broader narrative, And that man that I learned it from was Ronald Reagan, who I had read once had been advised that a position he was preparing to take on a major issue would be considered political suicide by his top advisors. They were telling him not to do it. Political expediency, they said. You can't do this, sir. But Reagan, with the scars of all of his prior battles in the public arena, he told him, I didn't get elected to get reelected. We're going to do the right thing. That's a statesman. The politician that makes promises but may not deliver them once he's elected. But a statesman is a person who stands by his ideals and does everything in his power to do what he believes is right for the people of his community, his state, his country. You see, statesmen stand on a platform of fundamental truths and principles, and they have those scars I told you about from prior fights. Because when the fur starts flying and the attacks come from all angles, and they will, it is the embedded principles and the knowledge of having survived prior fights that take a statesman forward to lean into the fight. And they cannot be myopic either. They cannot be fixated on one thing. A statesman has to be broad and deep and able to address a variety of issues. I mean, can they adjust from a fight on cultural issues and pivot over here for fiscal issues? Are they effective in the arena of facing down attacks on constitutional liberties and then able to move next to a debate about economic development or military spending or education reforms or abortion or prisons? Can they see past the moment that they're in to decide what's out there for the greater good? See, a statesman is one who recognizes that his or her position has given them the opportunity for power of position, power over people, really, power that can become a distraction, power that can become a tyranny. Statesmen don't give way to the idea of power. For a statesman, it is antithetical to pursue tyranny or to lord themselves over others. George Washington, fresh on the heels of his victory in the Revolutionary War, was granted by the Continental Congress what they termed as unlimited powers in 1777 to pursue the fight against the British. Responding back to the Congress, Washington said, I shall constantly bear in mind that the sword was the last resort for the preservation of liberty, and so it ought to be the first thing we lay aside when those liberties are firmly established. You see, Washington, he also famously resigned his commission as a general before he took the oath of president's office, and he also declined to serve more than 2 terms because he was a statesman. He was honed by the fight. He was standing on his principles, and the fight was for the greater good. I'm going to tell you, we need more statesmen. We need more people who will say, I didn't get elected to get reelected. I'm going to do what the right thing is, especially in our state government. And we need them right now for such a time as this, and we need them to fight. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, there you have it. And, you know, what's amazing is too often I saw people down there who would do it, make their decisions, if you will, on the basis of political expediency. You know, they would take a walk on the hard votes because they didn't want to be on the record, or they would tell somebody one thing and do something else, or they would file something and pretend they had done it when they really had no intention of following through with it. But then I also know for a fact that I work with some guys who were amazing statesmen, who had the big picture in mind, who came down there with a purpose, got the purpose done, and then went back to the house. Statesmen. Can't do without them, man. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Right. I mean, like, man, pulling pins on truth grenades. I always got to let that bump run, man. I got to get to the drum roll.
You got to.
I got to. It's like a mandatory thing. Hey, I'm going to tell you here in a moment about Stan McDonald, and I'll also tell you the text lines are open. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it, same number for both. But yeah, Stan McDonald, man. So I was on the phone with him this morning, as a matter of fact. But Stan McDonald is a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's the sponsor daily of our Rightside Way monologue. Y'all, Stan McDonald is a 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama. And I'll tell you, not only is Stan going to be someone who advocates for your legal needs, but you guys out there in Rightside Ruffian land need to know he's been an absolute warrior when it comes to the political and socio-cultural things that we all care about. For years, I know it for a fact. So Stan McDonald, he's represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say when Stan McDonald is on your side, you will have no greater friend, and likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to get in touch with him. You ready? Stan McDonald. He's at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee in Huntsville. He's an America First family man. He's an attorney. And here's his phone number. You ready? 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. Tell him you heard about it on Rightside. I would have. By the way, he tells me people are like pinging him all the time about it now. He actually connected with an old a buddy he hadn't seen in years, he said the other day, because of that. I got to do the thing. No representation made the quality legal service forms greater than quality legal service for the lawyers. That thing.
I was about to say, you can't forget the thing.
The thing.
The mandatory thing.
Yeah. I wonder how long that was. Was that under 2 seconds?
Probably not.
By the way, Stan McDonald just texted me. He heard the monologue a minute ago, and he said, "Amen." And then he gave me a quote from a missionary named Amy Carmichael. Says, "Hath you no scars?" What a great quote. I may have to put that on a T-shirt. Hath you no scars? Rightside Ruffian, hath you no scars? Thanks, Stan. Text lines are indeed open. Let me grab a few of those. And John from Huntsville. Phil, awesome monologue. Also, did you hear that Ozzy Osbourne is apparently reuniting with the original members of Black Sabbath? No. This is going to be a geriatric crew, though. It says to perform one final concert in Villa Park, Birmingham, England. They say it's, by the way, it's over there. It's called Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Yeah, Birmingham. It's not Birmingham. It's Birmingham. They say it's going to be the greatest show ever. No, the greatest show ever would have been a Beatles reunion, which didn't happen. That would have been something.
I don't know. I mean, the Beatles are good, but...
Are you a Black Sabbath fan?
No. Well, I mean, I like Ozzy. I'm a big Ozzy fan, but I feel like the Beatles maybe get propped up a hair too much.
Propped up a hair too much.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't listen to Beatles in my free time. Let me just say that.
I don't either. But I think it would have been an epic show.
Oh, yeah,
I tell you what, would an epic show too if they had one more fully make-up original cast Kiss reunion. Listen.
Yeah.
The only fan club I ever joined in my life when I was in middle school was the Kiss fan club, the Kiss Army fan club. At least I think I did. I don't know if my dad ever mailed in my.
He seems like the type to not do that.
That one may have gotten lost in the mail. Ken from Harvest says, no sanctuary for illegals, but according to Babylon B, there is an issue that has arisen from aggressive enforcement. And he sends me a meme. And it says, single men dressing as illegal immigrants hoping that Kristi Noem will detain them.
Yeah.
Okay. Bruce from Springville says, gathering from your monologue, when Democrats are in office, it's basically held by Satan and his minion demons. Okay, I didn't say that, Bruce. You did. And then John from Harvest has a longer text that I'll get to right after this break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. I'm talking about from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I'm talking about the prettiest little town on the plains down yonder in Auburn. And I mean like even big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi also thrown in just for good measure. I'm getting used to being able to say the new like footprint of Rightside Radio. It's starting to roll off the tongue a little easier now.
I mean, I won't say the last part, but I mean.
You just would too. Say it with me. Prettiest little town on the plains. Say it.
I've never been there, so I couldn't tell you.
Oh, JP. All right. Text messages. Let's see what we got here. John from Harvest says, Phil, good monologue. Trump 2.0 is moving so fast that if you miss a day's news, you miss a whole lot. After having his opponents trying to destroy him, his family and supporters, and put him in jail and, yes, even kill him, Trump 2.0 is now also freed from re-election concerns. He is behaving like a man who has no more yes to give and no more cares to give. We'll put it that way. I'm not going to say it the way he said it. And it's glorious to watch, John and Harvest. And then Jerry from Decatur is ready for Kristi Noem to arrest him anytime. That's all I'm going to say. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Speaking of things happening in Trump world, have I got a phone call?
Mm-hmm.
Well, who's on the phone?
Sparky from Harvest.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's talk to Sparky. Sparky from Harvest, how you doing, man?
Real good. Good show, you and JP.
Thank you, buddy.
I've enjoyed your monologue, the difference between a politician and a statesman. I think you and I are blessed to have known statesmen in our lifetime, like Ronald Reagan, Maggie Thatcher, and now the most bombastic of all, the most outlandish ones in anybody's lifetime, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But when you see decisive leadership that doesn't much care what the political consequences are, it's just invigorating. It's very exciting. Hey, the KISS Army, 50 years ago, KISS Alive came out. I was in a high school garage band with my brother Stacy. We played KISS and Alice Cooper and Bad Company. And 50 years later, we still play gigs whenever we can, Army parties, sports fest, and old people high school reunions, and we always include some KISS music in there in the sets one way or another.
Outstanding. There's like how many classic tunes are there? I mean, those guys, by the way, they were not just great musicians. They were like merchandising wonders. They were businessmen. They were capitalists.
Yeah, I think Gene Simmons, he sort of set the model for merchandising early on with even the KISS Army, but lunch boxes and coffee mugs and stickers and whatnot. And I mean, that his family is going to be reaping the benefit of KISS merchandise for decades. I'm quite sure.
My mom came in one day to find that I had ordered a KISS a Love Gun poster and hung it on my wall from the album cover, and she was not enthused. And I'm pretty sure that was a moment in time where I got away with something I shouldn't have gotten away with.
I had a good mom. She taught me to read. She loved good books, but she sat with me. And we watched in the living room, probably in 74, 75, Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. It was kind of a TV special with Vincent Price and dancers and props and stuff. But I was like, my mom is so awesome. She supports our musical interests strongly. And she's going to sit and watch Alice Cooper with me. She was awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, you also named, as long as we're chasing rabbits here, you named one of my favorite bands of all time. I love Bad Company. That blues rock sound they had was just like never ending.
Yeah, and Paul Rogers' voice is fantastic.
God.
He had some serious health crisis the last couple of years with strokes. He's on the recovery. He's singing good again. He's got a good, solid Christian wife who takes good care of him. And, look up a Paul Rogers interview from the last year or two. He's amazingly healthy now.
Cool. Good to hear. All right, Sparky, thanks for the call, man.
Goodbye.
That's good stuff. I'm sorry. The old guys were over here just reminiscing about good music from way before your time.
I love that music. It's like 70s, 80s rock is, man, I listen to it all the time.
I used to drive down the road with my kids, and the radio would be on, and I'd go, quick, who sings it? and they had to know. You know, or they got tickled if they didn't know it.
I mean, I was raised on Boston and Guns N' Roses, and then later on in life discovered Pink Floyd, which to this day is still my favorite band. I love Pink Floyd. It's awesome.
Well done. All right. Hey, before I go any further, there's a story out today, and I'm pretty sure your sound effect is going to be needed now. Because you just came up with a new sound effect, am I right?
Yes, that's
correct. Is it a Doge sound effect?
It is a Doge sound effect.
So did you hear, JP, about the fact that as they're culling through the expenses of things that USAID has been spending money on, the Doge discovered that we've got prostitutes in the press like Politico and the AP who are receiving millions of taxpayer dollars through grants from USAID. Have you heard that?
I did.
That's just sick.
Not the press prostitutes.
Well,
that's a great term.
I'm sorry.
That's a great term for it.
So now we know that apparently Politico itself, over a period of time, got $34 million. Is that what I saw?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Isn't Politico the one that helped suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story?
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be the one.
I mean, just listen, this is gross. So they're getting money from the federal government, and then they're tooling their stories in a certain way that helps the administration that they like. And you got to look at it and go, okay, was there anybody like, I don't know, Rightside Media or Daily Wire or Blaze TV or anybody else like Breitbart? Did any of them get any money? Freaking no.
We would have had to have been Left Side Radio to get
it.
It
would have had to be Left Side Radio. So Doge found this out. So my question is, who let the Doge out?
Doge. Doge.
Oh my gosh.
I'm proud of that one.
Oh my gosh, that was perfect. Was that Elon's voice saying Doge?
That was Elon saying Doge.
Oh, we may have to take a break while I compose myself. Golly, man, that was awesome. You know, you just won all the points today from John from Huntsville.
I hope so.
Play it again. So. Ready? Who let the Doge out?
Doge. Doge.
That's just the best. I am a happy radio man right now. That is just so good. All right, you're allowed to stay.
I guess by proof I could stay.
You've earned your keep just with that one sound effect right there. We're going to wind up. I tell you what, there's no sense starting the dipper yet. I got to get a few more text messages. Let the Doge out. Jeff from Indiana says, "Hey Phil, after a couple of adult beverages, I do a mean okay. No, I don't want to know about your karaoke to guess songs, and you're not going to call in here and do that either." That's Jeff from Indiana. John from Huntsville says JP just won today's show.
There you go.
I think you just broke the internet.
We gotta pull that and post it later.
Oh, please do, actually. just start working on it now. Brian from Huntsville says, "This is my weapon. This is my gun. With Kiss on the radio, we're all having fun." This show has devolved.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where we went, but we are not the same show right now. All right, listen, there's a lot of things happening right now. There's a couple of breaking news stories that I will tell you they weren't part of the Dippers, but I'm going to make sure you know. Even as I speak right now, I'm back to being serious. Even as I speak right now, Trump is holding a major event at the White House. Riley Gaines standing right behind him, along with a number of other female athletes and people who actually support women's rights. He's signing a executive order declaring that in the United States, women's sports will be only for actual biological women. None of this fake women stuff being allowed to play in women's sports. This is leadership right now. This is saying, I'm not going to wait for everybody else to try and fix it. This is the wrong that we all know is wrong. And if you want federal funds for your athletic department, guess what? You better correct this. So NCAA, I just wait to see now what you're going to do. And I ask you, JP, since you track NCAA with all of their machinations and NIL problems and everything else they've got at the NCAA, do you think they're going to immediately go, okay, good, we know now?
No. And by the way, ESPN put out the title of their article talking about this.
Yeah.
It says, President Donald Trump will sign an executive order Wednesday designed to prevent people who were biologically assigned male at birth from participating in women's or girls' sports.
Biologically
assigned male at birth, not, preventing males from playing in women's sports. He's preventing.
So ESPN thinks they were assigned?
Yeah. So just the phrasing of that, and I kind of lumped the NCAA and ESPN
Here,
in the same.
Let me fix that for you.
Mhm.
It's biologically assigned by God, male at birth.
Yeah,
Can we put it that way?
or just male, either or.
Yeah.
It's
How
but
about
yeah,
dudes play dude sports, chicks play chick sports? Everybody's happy.
that you would think, but it's not the NCAA. They're gonna fight it as long as possible.
So are trainees going to have their own like leagues? Is that going to happen?
I don't think so. I mean,
I'm asking seriously. That's not Phil being derogatory.
Mm-mm.
Although some will say you don't say Phil, you don't say trannies. Okay, fine. Are transgenders going to have their own
yeah.
leagues?
Well, I mean, you think out of the way, if any woman is trying to become a man and is taking testosterone, I mean, people can't take steroids and compete in there. So I feel like in that genre, they wouldn't be allowed to compete in
human growth
either.
hormone,
Yeah.
all of it.
I mean, and we saw the his name is escaping me at the moment, but the women boxer who won gold, and everybody was complaining about how he had XX or what. I can't remember the genre they claimed he was in, but then it came out that he was actually a male and was able to compete in that. And we saw, I mean, girls were literally quitting after like 2 or 3 punches from him. So no, I mean, this is going to save women's lives. And, if they want to have their own league, I guess, I don't know.
And some will say saving women's lives. Okay. And we need to look this back up because it happened about a year ago, I believe. But the NHL, National Hockey League, decided that they were going to have, believe it or not, transgender night or something like that. LGBTQ night, I forget what it was, and they allowed these teams to come in and have exhibition games where it was trans. So they had one game against the Pinks against the Blacks. That's what they're actually called, I believe, the teams, the Pinks against the Blacks. One was a team of guys playing as girls against a team of girls playing as guys. Guess who crushed who and left one of them with a broken skull on the ice? Yeah, you can just figure.
The guys playing as girls.
Oh, yeah. So listen, it doesn't work. It was never meant to be. It is not biologically, scientifically, or even humanly sound. And President Trump's leading. So there's one piece of breaking news for you that's happening right now as we speak. More to come on that as it develops. But I'm glad to see leadership from the White House once again on issues that we all actually care about.
And then maybe Tuberville's bill can get through in the Senate, and it can be legislative and not just executive order.
And I think that's going to be fair. Right now, the executive order could certainly be overturned by a future administration that's, feckless like a Biden again. And then the other piece of breaking news is Pam Bondi was sworn in earlier today as the new Attorney General for the United States of America, and she immediately came out with orders that begin to set the record straight on how life will be in the Attorney General's office and the Department of Justice overall. So that's been huge. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday afternoon, was it, RFK and Tulsi Gabbard both came out of committee, and that means they are now postured for a floor vote. We suddenly saw support for Tulsi from Susan Collins, who's the squishy Republican from Maine. And so there is reason to believe that she has a better chance now than she did before. Although I still think those are going to be very, very squeaky close votes.
I'm more worried about Tulsi than RFK.
Yeah,
but
I am too.
They're both going to be very close.
And Tulsi, by the way, she's soon to be the DNI, but she's had some moments where the intelligence community could certainly raise questions, things that I think could have potentially denied her security clearance, and now she's going to be the head of security, if you know what I mean. So Tulsi's got an uphill climb. I think RFK is starting to gain ground.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we got plenty more where that came from. I'm going to jump into Dipper number 1, identify as Americans. Why don't we just stop with the whole, how do you identify? Let's identify as Americans. Wouldn't that be classy? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, listen, we got a dipper I got to go to, but y'all are texting in like crazy. So Richard from Madison says, who let the Doge out? The American people did. He said also, the wife and I had meatloaf for dinner Monday night. Glad to hear it. Joe from Athens said, it's too loud. You're too old. Wow. Jeff from Indiana said, how about the other way, too, on the transgender stuff? One of my best friend's daughter now identifies as a trans man and had, the surgeries and stuff and grows a better beard than I could ever grow. That's sad, though, really. Mike from Florence said, if they don't keep their trans axles out of my granddaughter's locker room, they're going to see me transform from an easygoing old man to a mean one.
That's pretty good.
You know what? That's worthy of a bumper sticker right there. Mm-hmm. Scott from Athens says, request for another button instead of ice, ice, baby, do doge, doge, baby. By the way, did you see that people are driving by?
I was going to mention that if you
the illegal immigration deportation protests playing ice, ice, baby real loud.
That's great.
Wow. And then Red from Tony, Alabama says, just give transgenders their own league so they can get their own trophy and call it a day. It's not like anyone's going to watch or even care. Make less money than the WNBA would. Just saying. All right. Let's talk about something. Something just chaps me. Apparently, I'm getting angry. No. Listen. Why is it that so often we see patriotism getting punished, but yet it takes an executive order from the White House to stop the flying of rainbow flags? Think about that. Why is it we're watching too often liberal progressives demanding that the American flag be taken down or the American flag not be flown? And listen, I hope this has changed. And if not, then I hope that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will make it change. But when I was downrange, both times, we were told the American flag could not fly over our fob. Why? Because there was some sense that we would be seen as, occupiers. So, did we have it up inside the ops room in our fob? Sure. But we didn't have it flying over our fob, which you look at and go, but we're there, and they know we're there. So what is the deal? But then look at some of the things that are happening around the nation. And I think the lead story on this is going to be Camping World. You familiar with Camping World? Have you seen them? So Camping World is a RV dealer.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Giant RV dealer. Mm-hmm. We got one here locally. But Camping World, one of the things they're known for, aside from being, prolific dealers of RVs, is they always fly a giant American flag. I mean, like a giant American flag, like on a 120-foot tall flagpole. That's their thing. And the guy who started it, his name is Marcus, I'm pronouncing it, but I think it's Limonis or Limonis. But anyway, he's a Lebanese-born businessman. And he says that he came to this country as an immigrant, and this country has, in fact, I'll just read his quote. How about that? He said, it's symbolism. It's how we feel about this country. We have a lot of veterans who work for us, a lot of veterans who shop with us. He said, I happen to be an immigrant. I was given the blessing of being able to enter this country and become a citizen, and I'm grateful for it. It's been a part of my life since I was a child in Miami, Florida, where we had the largest flagpole in Miami at my family's car dealership. So he grew up that way. He grew up appreciating where he is. He knows the value of where he lives, and he wants to fly the American flag. I'm looking at a story right now where Greenville, North Carolina, I almost picture Greenville, North Carolina as being in the South, but I'm just not sure sometimes. Greenville, North Carolina is now fining Camping World for flying its flag. Fining them a lot. Like $250 a day is a penalty for flying their flag. In the last week, they've racked up over $1,150 in fines. And the company is saying, well, you can fine us all you want to, but the flag ain't coming down. This story I pulled off of my NBC 15 out of Greenville, North Carolina, WITN up there. And it's a story that came out just last Thursday, I believe. So this is brand spanking new, but it's not brand spanking new overall because they are not the first city, nor will they be the last, apparently, to say, take down that American flag. And then I'll tell you, though, some of the executive orders that are changing the flags waving at embassies. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on Hump Day. We're glad you are with us. I am in Dipper number 1. I'm calling it Identify as Americans. Well, right before the break, I told you that Camping World, which is a major retailer of RVs. We have one around here, and Camping World is great. And Camping World is owned and run by a guy by the name of Marcus, and I'm probably doing a disservice to his last name, but I believe it's pronounced Lemonis. But Marcus Lemonis is a Lebanese immigrant who loves this country, who came here with his family as a child and went through all the steps necessary to become a U.S. citizen. And he's proud of his adopted country. And he believes that part of what his business will always stand for is, patriotism and a love for a country. And so they, as part of their thing, part of their shtick, if you will, is they put up a giant flagpole at every location, and they fly a giant American flag. I'm talking about a giant American flag, like one of those that's just like amazing. It's so big. Well, they keep finding local communities who love to take the tax dollars from Camping World, who love to get those sales tax, revenues, whoop, whoop, who love to get the property taxes and the business privilege taxes and everything else, who want them to take down the American flag. Well, that just happened in Greenville, North Carolina. And I told you right before the break that they basically got a letter back from, Lemonis at Camping World saying, go pound sand. Because we identify as Americans. They're being fined $250 a day by the city of Greenville, North Carolina, for flying their big American flag. Well, not to be outdone, how about you, East Tennessee? What? Sevierville, Tennessee? No. Yep, up yonder in the Smokies, Sevierville, Tennessee. I've got a copy of it right here. Sevierville, Tennessee, as of today, Marcus Lemonis is letting them know. He says, Dear Sevierville, Tennessee, the flag and the flagpole are not coming down. It's currently our standard flagpole, 130 feet with a 40 by 80 flag, and we are excited to continue sending all the new tax revenue from the $20 million facility we built in your town on former farmland. And I've got a copy of the letter here from the city of Sevierville, telling them it's a common attention of the department that the business located at the above address has constructed an approximately 100-foot flagpole in violation of municipal zoning ordinances. Really? That's what you're going to fight over? And then they give him, 30 days to bring the property into full compliance. Let me help you understand. That's not going to happen. Why do I know that? Because he's fighting it in Greenville, North Carolina. He's fighting it in Sevierville, Tennessee. And he's already fought it, y'all, the same fight in the San Joaquin County of California. Yep, last year, August 24. Camping World, RV sales in San Joaquin County, like many other companies around the nation, their 250 locations, flies a giant American flag. And it was stopped in April of last year when the county ordered the dealership to remove the flag. Story here on Fox Business. Y'all, I'm just telling you, this ain't gonna fly, and pun intended, I guess. The 2022 California Building Code adopted by the San Joaquin County requires a building permit for a flagpole that high. A building permit? Come on. All right, so why is it so hard for libs to allow people to identify as Americans? And yet it takes an executive order from the President of the United States to try and put things correct order at our U.S. embassies abroad. So they don't want the American flag, big American flags at least, to fly in some of the towns around the United States. Meanwhile, we have story after story of U.S. embassies flying gay pride and BLM flags on their flagpoles at our U.S. embassies abroad. I've got it right here. It's a story from 2021. U.S. embassies were authorized by then Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Does anybody miss him, by the way? Whatever happened to Antony? Where did Antony go?
I don't even want to hear his name again. I want to forget he ever was a Secretary of State.
Winking, blinking, and nod. He just went on his way. But U.S. embassies are now authorized to fly the pride flag, according to a story here from The Hill in April of 2021. The Trump administration had prohibited that before. Flying the pride flag will not be a requirement. It's up to each consulate's discretion. Secretary of State Antony Blinken authorized U.S. diplomats to fly that rainbow pride flag at embassies and consulates on the same pole as the American flag, according to the New York Times. That is just absolutely not supposed to happen. And by the way, anybody who said anything about it was called homophobic or transphobic. Of course they were, because, that's what we do. But former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had forbade it under President Trump's first term. And Blinken came in and immediately said, well, according to the Commission on Unalienable Rights, we're going to make sure that the LGBTQ plus flag is shown flying. Listen, that is absolutely not decorum. That is not who we are. That is not why our consulate was put in place. And that's also, in my opinion, that's an affront to our national interests. It's like saying we don't care about who we are as a country. We just want to identify with certain demographics. That's what it says. So I guess what they're saying is, by that token, we should have a Asian American flag flying at the U.S. Embassy. And while we're at it, why don't you have a white supremacist flag flying at the U.S. Embassy? That's great. I mean, they have feelings too, don't they? Psh, not really. But anyway, Axios, March of last year. Phil, did you go to Axios? I did. I went there so you wouldn't have to. The White House is vowing to repeal a provision banning U.S. embassies from flying the LGBTQ pride flags. What? Yeah, okay, so here's what happened. In the defense budget, Republicans, remember, gained some ground in the House and layered into the $1.2 trillion spending package back in spring of 24. Republicans were able to include a provision that said, oh, by the way, don't you fly that flag anymore. Yeah. Except that the Biden administration announced they were going to avidly fight it. They believed it was inappropriate to abuse the process essential to keep government open by including policies targeting LGBTQIA+. We're not targeting them. We're saying that American flag at that U.S. embassy is an American flag at a U.S. embassy and does not need to have a gay pride flag celebrating a certain demographic of people, a certain segment of society, a certain socio-cultural issue that is divisive in itself. Why would we do that? Between the lines, you can say it says the over 1,000-page package, according to Axios, states that, quote, none of the funds appropriated otherwise made available may be obligated or expended to fly or display flags over the United States Department of State, apart from the ones listed, none of which mention the pride flag, by the way. Well, Pete Hegseth's in office now. Whoop, whoop. And I'm going to tell you, we're looking at things changing. Pete Hegseth, according to an article on Town Hall, Dateline 3 days ago. Pete Hegseth has announced that the Pentagon will no longer officially recognize identity months. Have you heard that?
I did, yes.
It's good stuff. I mean, we do not need to waste any more time training or running the U.S. military, pausing everything so that we can celebrate history and pride months of just certain demographics. And Hegseth, who's the article points out from Town Hall, is a vocal critic of what he perceives as excessive political correctness, calls this a victory for those who believe the armed forces should prioritize actual national defense over social and cultural issues. It's not saying that we won't celebrate Black Pride Month because we don't believe that black soldiers are a great addition to our military. They absolutely are. It doesn't mean that we're going to somehow be persecuting the LGBTQ plus community. What it's saying is, you know what? When you join the military, we have one color. It's called green. That's it. You're part of the big green machine. You have unity and purpose in being part of one team. We don't celebrate our differences. We set them aside. That's what we do. We don't celebrate our differences constantly by building teamwork. We set them aside to build teamwork. You forget the fact that you are this, that, or the other so that you can focus on being a part of the broader team. No one goes into the military going, you know, I'm really here because I want to make sure that gay people have a voice in the military. If that's it, then you're an activist. You're not a soldier. No one goes into the military going, you know why I'm here? I'm here to make sure that women only, or blacks only, or Asians only, or transgenders, or whatever are given the upper hand. Then you're there for the wrong reasons, because the military has one purpose: to defeat and deter our enemies. Period. Full stop. Hegseth also said efforts to divide the force, to put one group ahead of another, erode camaraderie and threaten mission execution. So going forward, DoD components and military departments will not use official resources to include any man-hours to host celebrations or events related to cultural awareness months. Service members and civilians remain permitted to attend those events in their unofficial capacities outside of duty hours. There you go. You want to march in a gay pride parade? Do it on Saturday on your own time. Just don't do it in uniform during the work week. And get the LGBTQ pride flags and BLM flags and everything else out of those offices. How about this? It's not just a SecDef. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy got sworn in and turned around and did the exact same thing for the U.S. Department of Transportation. Sean Duffy announced that DOT will immediately cease participation in identity-based observances, stating that they are distractions from the agency's core mission of safety and infrastructure. Well, there went Pete Buttigieg's race roads, his racist roads. I guess we're through worrying about racist roads now. Effective immediately, he says the Department of Transportation will no longer participate in celebrations based on immutable traits or other identity-based observances. These distractions do nothing to keep planes and air, trains on the tracks, or ports and highways secure. Oh, God, common sense has come back to us. Democrats have no idea, progressives have no idea how to build teamwork. They believe that if you divide people up into little bitty subgroups, that somehow that's a bigger team. It's not. The only way to build team is to set aside differences and to all be one. That's the way it works. All right, listen, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back. I got plenty more on tap. Coming up next, let's start talking about no sanctuary, like sanctuary cities. Like, did you know what the mayor of Birmingham just said about being a sanctuary city? Stand by. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. Let me get some text messages. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You can text it or call it. Same number for both. Mike from Florence, he says they tried that stuff with Trump, so he got around it by building the ground up so he could still have the flag as high with a shorter pole. That's interesting. Where was all right, Mike from Florence? If you wouldn't mind, tell me where that was. That almost feels familiar, like I've heard that before. But yeah, that would be. I want to know. Crystal from Moulton, Alabama. That's cousin Crystal. She says, "Can we sign up to help Camping World pay? I'll pay the $250 for a day." Wow. You know what, Crystal? I have no idea, but you know what? I think that right now, I would say those city councils are going to wind up having to recant. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a backlash. Just saying. But you are a gracious person. Gary from Leicester, Alabama says this flag thing is absolutely infuriating. Yeah, it is. That's why I thought it was worthy of a whole dipper there. I mean, it's unreal. I mean, for the love, people. Talk about majoring in the minors. Paul from Decatur says, "Hey, Colonel, on the identity dipper, identified dipper, says my question is this: how are Muslim countries handling gay pride flags?" In their country, and I'm not going to read the rest of it, but yes. So that apparently was a thing. I believe that the U.S. Embassy in Turkey flew the gay pride flag. I think it was Turkey, and maybe also in Qatar, and it did not go over well at all. So it does nothing for our U.S. interests, and it certainly does nothing for our foreign policy and international relations. So yeah, point made, Paul. Brian from Huntsville. I keep asking what LGBTQ plus is. I never get a straight answer. Straight. See that? Straight. See what he did? Straight.
That was good.
Yeah. Well played, sir. By the way, somewhere I've got, I once looked up what is the longest version, because plus, the LGBTQ plus, that just indicates there's a whole lot more things that could be included, but they're too busy to say. Yeah, I found it one time. The longest version of the LGBTQ plus acronym, and it was long. And I read it out of the air, and then I went back and I read everything that supposedly it encompassed. And it took up a couple of minutes.
Well, they couldn't even tell you how much it is, because a lot of them just say, well, there's probably genders out there that we're not even aware of. It's like,
have you seen the little meme video of it's an alien from outer space sitting there talking to Earthlings, and he says, "Let me get this straight. On your world, there's 173 genders. That's correct. How does that work? What do you mean? Well, I mean, how do you procreate? Well, listen, this is a very difficult question." And he began to kind of display. So basically, you're a bunch of idiots.
I love also the at least two answer that Democrats love to give when they're asked how many genders there are, and they go, at least two. It's like
at least two.
Such a convenient, I don't know, but at least two.
Ketanji Brown Jackson. I don't know. I'm not a biologist. Matt from Madison says, I say boycott Dollywood. I wonder what Ms. Parton thinks about this. Why would you boycott Dollywood? What did Dollywood do? I don't think that's Dollywood's not the reason why Sevierville's saying don't fly the flag. So
Dollywood's awesome. Nobody boycott Dollywood.
No one would boycott Dollywood. Flip from Priceville says, what did Ronald Reagan do that he was advised against? I don't recall. And Flip, I'm going to have to go back and look at that. That's from my monologue earlier, story of when he was advised that something he was about to make a decision on would be political suicide. And I believe his national security advisor, who I think was Caspar Weinberger, I'm not positive, said, Mr. President, that would be political suicide. You don't need to do that. And he said, I didn't get elected to get reelected. Let's do the right thing. You know what, Flip? I'll look back and see if I can figure out exactly what the issue was that caused that. I believe it's in one of my books at home. Mike from Florence says, it was the Trump flag at Mar-a-Lago. Okay. Says, where is it? They tried that with Trump. He got around it by building up the ground for the flag at Mar-a-Lago. That's okay. I'm going to check that out. That's very cool. Ron from Tuscumbia, reaching back to the talk about the fan club, says the KISS Army started in my hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana, by two students at Terre Haute High School. I'm probably in the original 1,000 members. Saw KISS with Rush, oh man, and Blue Oyster Cult. Good Lord, that had to have been good. So my best throwback concert was I saw the original Van Halen in 1981 at the Boutwell in Birmingham.
Wow.
It was epic. JT Lacey Springs says, I'm listening late. Last hour news reports recruiting is up substantially in December and January. MAGA, yep. We hit like a 13-year high on recruiting.
It was 15.
Was it a 15-year high? Holy schmolies. What does that tell you? They just wanted new leadership. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. I'm talking about from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I'm talking about the prettiest little town on the plains down yonder in Auburn. Y'all, I'm even talking about big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. So the lovely Charlene just texted in, and she may be right. It may have been that he was advised Ronald Reagan may have said that whole thing about I didn't get elected to get reelected when he was advised not to use the phrase the evil empire, referring to the Soviet Union. And yet that speech is considered to be a part of what brought the Soviet Union down, was the fact that they realized that the jig was up. I mean, it was the pressure was put on, the evil empire. So that may have been it. I think that I have to go back and look. I've got a book at home that I think is where I got it.
I wonder why they would advise against that, though. I feel like during that time that would have been well accepted. People
were really worried when he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." By the way, he also he was not notorious, but he was known for writing his own speeches, or at the very least, heavily editing them so that it wasn't like a speechwriter gave him everything. Unlike Biden, who actually had notes written by somebody else about what to even say, that looked off the cuff, and it wasn't. By the way, I got to take a total aside here before I jump into the next dipper. Ron from Tuscumbia, Alabama, says the reason the KISS Army got started was there was a radio station in Terre Haute, Indiana that would not play KISS on their station, so students at Terre Haute North marched on the station calling themselves the KISS Army. Has there ever been a time? Yeah, I'm saying.
That's pretty epic.
That is pretty epic. There should be a movie.
Yeah.
There probably is.
Yeah, it probably is.
KISS did a really bad B-grade movie one time, too. It was awful.
I've not seen it.
It was awful. All right, listen, I'm going to jump into the next dipper here. I'm calling it No Sanctuary. There is an absolute move right now. In fact, I just think I saw a headline right before we came on the air. Would you look up for me, JP? Pam Bondi, Sanctuary Cities, see what she said. Because I think she said she was going to start withholding federal funds for law enforcement in their communities if they're a sanctuary city. But listen, sanctuary cities are a joke already. Sanctuary cities are literally mocking their own legal citizens by saying we're here to defend non-citizens who broke our law to get here, and it makes no sense. And they're expending a great deal of resources to do so. Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin is one of them. So you may be thinking, this is a red state. Yes, it is. 1819 News has a story. Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin defiant on illegal immigration during an MSNBC Al Sharpton appearance, saying, "Our doors are open." Oh, yay. So Sunday, Woodfin interviewed by Reverend Al Sharpton. What church has he ever pastored, by the way? The Reverend.
I don't know.
The Reverend Al Sharpton on MSNBC.
I saw in the clip he called him Rev, and that's kind of really angered me.
No, he did not.
He did. The first, he said, "Thanks, Rev, for having me on."
Okay. Anyway, during the interview, Sharpton spoke about Trump's efforts on deportation and was specifically asked about the city of Birmingham's working relationship with ICE. Woodfin said the partnership focused on human trafficking, and he stressed the city's contract includes an exception for what Woodfin described as administrative dealings on immigration status. We're very clear about that. He said, our doors are open to those who are law-abiding. Well, they're not law-abiding if they're here illegally. Anyway, that's Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, my gosh. By the way, Woodfin was on Sharpton to help promote his new book.
Yeah.
Yes, his new book, because the city of Birmingham doesn't have a crime problem. It's not a sanctuary city. It doesn't have, a declining population. It didn't drop from first in the state to third or fourth in the state in like one 10-year period during which, Mayor Bebe here was the guy in charge. So it's pretty awful, but that's right here in our red state, Alabama.
I love how he thinks he can tell what DHS can and can't do.
Yeah.
You're only going to do human trafficking.
Oh,
We're not
yeah.
going to let you do anything else.
We'll talk to you on those things.
Yeah.
It's important. All right, so JP, did you find that about Pam Bondi?
Yeah, it says this is one of her first things she did as Attorney General. She ordered the DOJ to freeze all funding for sanctuary cities and has instructed attorneys to begin prosecuting officials preventing ICE from doing their job.
Outstanding.
Woodfin. Yeah. I got one you can go after.
Yeah, exactly. Do we know his whereabouts right now?
Yeah.
He was on Sharpton. You can find him that way. Just ping his phone. I'm sure he's there. Border czar Tom Homan, according to Woke Spy, Border czar Tom Homan says they're going to be seeking prosecution. Did you hear about New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy?
Yes, I saw that clip.
What a knucklehead.
Yeah.
I mean, what an absolute chucklemeister. I mean, this is the governor of the state who is in a foolish show of defiance, according to the article I'm looking at here. The governor of the Garden State, New Jersey, gets on there and says, well, I was talking to my wife, Tammy, last night, and, we've got a illegal immigrant who works at our house. And we're just going to let her stay there, living above in our garage, because we want to make sure she's safe. Don't let the feds come get her. He's the governor of the friggin' state.
Taunting is what that was.
Well, I got news. Fool around and find out, right? He may find out sure enough. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. He's basically thumbing his nose at the law. And what is the executive branch charged with? That'd be enforcing the law. They're not just the ones who make sure that people show up to work on time and do the work of the state. No, they're there to enforce the law. That's part of the executive branch's mandate. When he swore and put his hand on the Bible and swore to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New Jersey, he said that he would do so. And guess what? He's apparently not. So we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, out in L.A., I mean, it's everywhere, but think about this. We're talking about blue cities, aren't we? Blue cities, blue states. Funny how that works out. Blue cities, blue states. A blog site called Former Lawman, Dateline Today. The LAPD was ordered to stand down in the face of an illegal alien protest. So have you seen those? The illegal alien protests?
I have.
It's just nuts. Because that's certainly going to help their situation, blocking off the
Blocking
interstates.
traffic, I think that just hurts it more.
People can't get to work, ambulances can't get through, commerce, farm to market, all of it blocked because they want to go out onto American roads built with American tax dollars in American cities, waving Mexican flags and, Palestinian flags and whatever else, and protest this country for daring to send people back who were here illegally. But the LAPD, though, did show up in riot gear, equipped with zip ties and nightsticks, attempting to clear the demonstrators, and then suddenly they stopped. They were about to make arrests when all of a sudden they just left, says one bystander. Never seen anything like it, the guy said. Hundreds of police with zip ties, all of them just left. Demonstrators are now being, cracked down on in certain places, but not in L.A. Reports are that the LAPD was told to stand down, and they did. And the protest continued. Why would that be? Because the LA City Council decided that they're going to be a sanctuary city. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, if they're waving the other country's flags, then why don't they just go with them? If their country's so great, go ahead. No, nobody's stopping you.
I got no problem with that. They're probably not going to buy an RV from Camping World either. What do you think?
I mean, they could buy one to go to Mexico if they want.
Several Chicago aldermen, according to Fox News Dateline yesterday, are now bucking Mayor Brandon Johnson's defiant posture towards the Trump administration's immigration policies. So if you're not seeing this guy, I don't want to say I'll take Woodfin over Brandon Johnson any day, but my gosh. I literally look at this and go, you talk about being unqualified and incapable of doing your job. But Johnson, keep in mind what he was too before. He came from being a teachers union activist to now he's the mayor of one of the biggest cities in the world. How does that happen? Despite backlash from residents, Johnson has criticized ICE and the Trump administration when they began apprehending illegal immigrants in the city last month. one of the aldermen said that Johnson only cares about the thoughts or opinions of hyper-liberal white progressives who live in Chicago. I mean, this whole thing is breaking down on race lines. Here's an idea: enforce the law. That's why justice wears a blindfold, because we don't look at this as color, but they see racists under every rock. They see something about demographics under every single rock. This particular alderman said he's not concerned, Mayor Brandon Johnson. He's not concerned about African Americans. He's not concerned about Latinos. He's absolutely not concerned about undocumented Mexicans who are going to bear the brunt of his actions. He's playing a game of chicken with all their lives, and it's disgusting. So, sanctuary status. How long will this last? Well, we've got a new sheriff in town. Pam Bondi came out hard on this thing today, and JP read the headline. You still got that article up? Read the headline again, or the sub portion you read. It
says that Pam Bondi has directed the Department of Justice to pause or to freeze all funding for sanctuary cities and has instructed attorneys to begin prosecuting officials preventing ICE from doing their job.
Listen, there's a lot of money that flows from the federal government to assist with local law enforcement. And then there's things that happen like you have any number of local jail facilities that wind up housing federal prisoners who are transitioning from one facility to another, or maybe they're being held there on detainer. And so they have a contract with the federal government to house them while they're there. You've got, any number of grants that come through that assist local law enforcement with buying equipment, with training, with sending them off to federally run training events. All of this can come to a screeching halt. Fox News reports, as of yesterday, federal and state officials are now actually also eyeing legislation that will allow state officials to punish local officials for following so-called sanctuary city policies. So I checked on it, and I had a distinct memory that we had tried to have an illegal immigration sanctuary city prohibition bill in Alabama. Now, in 2011, when I was down there in the Senate, one of the first things we did was pass an illegal immigration bill, and it had several components like that built in. A lot of them got challenged. It was a different time. The courts allowed certain things to be picked apart. But in 2020, I believe it was, Senator Arthur Orr from Decatur, he ran Senate Bill 108. And Senate Bill 108 was a prohibition against and made it a Class C felony for any leadership of a city in the state of Alabama to declare themselves a sanctuary city. And it didn't pass. Why did it not pass? Because it died on the vine. It came out of committee, and then it never went through the final processes. That tells me either A, somebody really didn't care to see that bill move, or B, some lobbying interest got their way, or C, the gambling bill got in the way of everything, and good legislation that should have passed got bound up in the timing and died. Either way, Alabama does not have an illegal immigration sanctuary city prohibition bill. We don't right now, not to that effect. I believe Tennessee just passed one yesterday, like literally yesterday, and that's a big deal. And we need to keep in mind that we do not want to be that state that has everything it takes to get certain things passed that the people of the state elected a Republican supermajority to do, and then just not do it. It's low-hanging fruit, fellas. Why would you not?
We're talking about Bondi instructing attorneys to go after anybody prohibiting ICE from doing their job. I know how they can get Woodfin. Just set up a fake thing for him to come promote his book, and I promise you he'll be there within an hour. Just have people there ready to catch him when he gets there.
There's a devious side to you. All right, we're taking a break, man. We got to take a break right now. We'll come right back and wrap this segment up. Coming up top of the hour, don't forget the Grand Council with my brethren Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world, one soundbite at a time. All right. Hey, by the way, Cousin Crystal just texted me a copy of a USA Today article that confirms the thing about Trump and the flagpole that was down at Mar-a-Lago. And then we got a text from Jay from Killen, and put his location in that name ID so we can see it too. But Jay from Killen just says, yeah, Trump had put up a large U.S. flag that was on a taller pole than the city ordinance allowed. He fought it for a while, then he took it down, built up a large mound of dirt, and then planted the flag on a shorter pole that met the height ordinance, but with the large mound it's now on, it's actually taller than the original pole would have been because the ordinance only restricted the height from the ground, not the actual height of the pole or the flag itself. That's awesome. And by the way, Jay, last week our texter was messing up big time. I never saw that you had texted me before saying that you were in Congressman Adderholt's office the same time I was watching the inauguration. And he just sent a picture. And yeah, that's me in a vest and tie in the back of the room back there. And I see where your wife's sitting there watching the screen too. I wish I'd had a chance to meet you and shake your hand, but I'm glad you're a listener and I'm glad you were there at the same time we were. That's very cool. Gary from Lester, Alabama, still talking about the KISS stuff. Says Detroit Rock City was an awesome movie. That's what it was. The movie was Detroit Rock City, based on teenagers attempting to go to a KISS concert. Yeah. It was so B grade though, man. You got to admit. Harry from Madison, Alabama says, homosexuality, this is a quote, homosexuality is a luxury that only a well-populated species can afford. Oh, wow. Interesting. Who's that quote from? Harry, let me know that you got it in quotation marks. I'm assuming it's from somebody. Bruce from Springville says, Al Sharpton, he's the senior reverend of the Church of the Heathen. Nice. Well played, sir. Shane from Madison said, ICE ought to show up to these protests. That'll disperse them quickly. Yeah, and that's the other thing that if you didn't hear earlier, people have been driving by those protests with the song Ice, Ice Baby playing really loud on their speakers. Scott from Athens says, now I know why Christianity Today magazine went off the deep end several years ago. And he sends a meme. What are we showing me? Was that money from USAID?
They got over, it looks like 1.8 million in government grants. That's what this charity sent is saying.
Okay, USAID, y'all, I'm just saying, USAID was apparently a cesspool. And we knew that. But now that we're finding out where some of the money was going, it was literally going to a bunch of press prostitutes. I mean, so now we know that Christianity Today magazine, Politico received like $34 million. The AP, we're watching major disbursements of tax dollars going to liberal members of the press. That's just gross. Okay, well, listen. Coming up next, I didn't even bother getting into all my stuff. We're out of time. But sanctuary cities, yeah, they're looking at some retribution now. The new Attorney General Pam Bondi announced today, after she was sworn in, that she's directing that law enforcement grants from the DOJ to sanctuary cities be put on hold. They're going to start feeling the pain. And we're also looking at things like, illegal immigrants are now going down to Guantanamo Bay. And then, of all things, El Salvador said that their mega prison, which is known to be what they call a hellhole prison, we'll take them, send them down to us. We'll hold them for you. That's, ain't nobody wants to go down there is what I'm saying. But you know what they also know? They'd be on a paid contract from the U.S. government. So let's send some USAID dollars to that, housing illegals. There you go. Okay, listen, we're going to wind up taking a break here momentarily. When I come back, it's time for the Grand Council. And if you're not familiar, every single week, the Grand Council, with two of my brethren in talk radio, Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson, we ping each other with questions, and we just see where the chips fall. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Wednesday. You know what that means. We play the camel at the beginning of the show, and we bring in a couple other guys to do Grand Council with me at the 4 p.m. hour. So I will tell you the brand new thing here is the Grand Council every Wednesday, brought to you by DeKalb MD, which is healthcare simplified. And I'll tell you more about DeKalb MD here in a few minutes. But right now, let me go ahead and just call the roll on the Grand Council. From 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN up yonder in Huntsville, also writing with Yellowhammer News, also has a TV gig and a whole bunch of other stuff. Dale Jackson, are you there?
Oh, I got a question for you, sir.
What's that?
We all getting paid now? What's up?
From FM Talk 106.5, host of the Jeff Poor Show down yonder in Mobile. And then, oh, by the way, the editor-in-chief of 1819 News, Jeff Poor. Are you here? Is he still here? Did we lose Jeff?
You know what? I think he's calling back. Let me get over it.
Okay.
He's mad. Yeah, we're getting paid now.
Yeah, no. I got you covered, man. All right. Is Jeff coming back in? Let's see if we can get him on. Jeff. Is that Jeff? Jeff. I'm going to keep talking because apparently that's what I do when the producer's talking on the phone over there. All right. Is that him? Jeff Poor, are you there?
I am present.
I'm glad of it. All right. I pronounce a quorum. The Grand Council. Kick it off.
Assemble the Grand Council.
Ba-da. All right, first question, round 1. Dale Jackson, I'm going with you first because you sound rather saucy today. Go for it.
I am rather saucy today, actually. Look, I like everything that these guys are doing in government right now. They are kicking back, and they're blocking all sorts of grants. But look, we've seen this before. Talk of blocking money for sanctuary cities and things like that. Will that be challenged in court, and will they win?
Can it be challenged in court? Anything can be challenged initially, but I don't think that they're going to wind up prevailing on it. I think right now, the awarding of grants is an award. It comes to you not because of the fact that you exist. It becomes because the grantee and the grantor have an agreement. And right now, the grantor can say, I don't think you do. So I think they have a chance. At the very least, here's the thing. Fighting in court, how long will that even take? I mean, it could take 6 months to a year for them to be able to get back to payments, even if they could. So I think this is going to wind up being a strategy that has some effect, at least on some of those communities. Jeff?
Or would they put a stay on some of this behavior? I don't know. I think it'll be challenged in court. But what's kind of brilliant about the whole Trump strategy is they are overwhelming the system.
Yeah.
They weren't ready for this.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back at 2017, it was like, okay, we try a travel ban, and then it sort of stopped there. Now it's just they're just throwing everything at them, and they're not prepared for this.
Oh yeah, the press hadn't slept in like 2 weeks. I guess they can't keep up. But I don't know. What do you think, Dale? Is it going to prevail? It's your question.
I think Jeff nailed it. I was going to try to be smart just like Jeff was and say, well, they'll probably put a stay on it. And that's how they'll stop it. And they'll drag it out for 2 years like they did like the DACA stuff, like they did the travel ban and all these other things. I think that's what they're going to try to do.
That's what I just said. I said it a different way. But it's
I
exactly
know.
what
I was trying to set you up to look good.
All right, next question. Let me ask you this. Jeff, I know you're down in Montgomery right now, but I don't know if y'all watched the Governor Ivey's State of the State. I watched part of it this morning on replay, and I'll be honest, she looked I thought she looked extremely tired. She, of course, made it through her speech and all that, but one thing that caught my attention that I think was a subliminal jab at the things we've been saying in this Grand Council. She said, I look forward to serving for the next 2 years. And I thought it was interesting. I've never heard her have to label. I mean, why would she say that unless she's trying to clear the air on something? And she said, I'm staying here for the next 2 years, basically. Was that intentional? Was that designed to correct the Grand Council? Dale, what do you think?
Is this where they get her? We nailed her? Is this what we're going to run her out? I don't think so. I think this is the same stuff we've been hearing and talking about for almost 8 years now, it seems. She's right around the corner from getting out of there. I don't see it.
But I think she was putting it. I'll tell you what. Let me go to Jeff first. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, let me read you a line from the speech last night.
Yeah.
Quote, in Alabama politics, we don't exactly follow the rule of never asking a lady her age. And that's okay. So while we're on my age, I will share one of its many benefits. Meemaw will tell you exactly like it is. That's correct until the very, very end. She says she will tell you like it is because she's not telling anybody like it is because she doesn't take questions from anybody. I think there were several subliminal jabs in there. I don't know about if it was specifically this program, but there's a lot of people out there asking, like, where the hell's the governor right now?
Well, and I think that her speechwriters knew they had to address this rumor that the guy sitting behind her on the dais, Will Ainsworth, wasn't going to walk across the street and become the governor next week. I mean, she literally says, "I intend to serve the state for the next 2 years," or something to that effect. And there's no other reason to say that. You're elected for 4. Why would anybody question it? The fact that you have to clarify it means that you're dancing to the tune of the people who've been wondering what your deal is and whether you can sustain the operation for the next 2 more years. So I really think she was responding to the things that we've been saying, that the 1819's been publishing about questions about her health, well-being, and whether she'll continue. So, good on us. We stirred up some quotes from the State of the State address. Jeff, next question. What do you got?
So, kind of being in the State House today, one of the things, and guys, I know I asked this a couple of weeks ago, and I got to run it out there again. Like, they're seriously thinking about not extending this overtime tax exemption, I think, to their own detriment, to their own peril. We have Anthony Daniels, who's going to be on the tax-cutting side, and Republicans are going to give us the hubba-da-hubba-da. What do you think of that? I mean, I think it's a risky move, especially in this political environment with Donald Trump doing what he's doing.
It's absolutely risky. Right now, the op-ed that I had come out in your periodical in 1819 on Monday, my question is, why would you not? All the things they could do right now, they have the wind at their back. There is no reason to do anything less than the conservative things they say they stand for every time they run for office. I mean, they'll talk about all their conservative bona fides, and then they'll get in there and say, oh, we apparently gave you back too much of your money, so we think we may have to do away with that tax cut we just put in last year. I think I don't know if it'd be political suicide. I think for a few of them, though, it would definitely draw a primary. Dale?
Well, it all depends. I mean, they're kind of trying to game this out, right? And the game says basically, no, we're not doing away with it. We're putting it in somewhere, another place. We're thinking about a sales tax. Now, I lowering the sales tax. Now, I'll tell you what I think that is. I think that's their way of saying, well, we were going to do this, but we just couldn't get it done. Guess it expires. And that's, I think, how it's going to play out.
Well, the fact, though, that they're looking at this as Republicans who call themselves conservatives and tout their conservatives' credence or street cred, and they're going to say, yeah, we just feel like we took too big a whack at giving you your money back, people. We need to reclaim some of that. How do you polish that turd?
Senator, the ETF, the education budget, is $9.3 billion.
With a B.
$1 billion. The education budget is 3 times the general fund budget, and the general fund they spend 3 times as much on education as they do everything else combined in this state. You can't find $200 million to extend this overtime, an annual $200 million to extend this overtime tax exemption. I find that ludicrous.
It's absolutely ludicrous, especially when you consider that Trump is talking about other payroll cuts like, wages and tips kind of cuts. There's no way that's a good plan, and they better rethink it because right now they're in a budget surplus with all things paid for, and they've got reserve accounts on both the education and general fund budgets. And if they can't find that $200 million like you're talking about, which is they got that much money in the couch cushions in Montgomery, then they need to go find another job. That's all there is to it. All right, I got to call it right there. We're going to take a break. It's round one of the Grand Council with Jeff Poore, who is in the State House right now from 1819 News and FM Talk 106.5, and Dale Jackson up yonder in Huntsville at WVNN, also with Yellowhammer News, and just little old me. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're going back to round 2 of the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson. Round 2, first question. Dale Jackson, what you got?
Our illustrious governor did not mention gambling in the State of the Union, but Garland Gudger kind of gave it a passing glance and said, hey, maybe it's on the table, maybe it's not. It's kind of dangling it out there. Is that for us or is that for somebody else?
Jeff, you're down there right now. I'll let you go first. What are you hearing about gambling?
Nothing. It's not happening. They don't have the votes in the Senate. The Greg Reed seat is going to go to Matt Woods. He's going to be a no. Are they able to flip Albritton? Maybe. But then they got to flip a Lance Bell or Chris Elliott. I don't see the votes there. They're not going to go on it unless they absolutely are sure they have the votes. Yeah, I think it's dead this session. It just doesn't have any energy.
Well, and I would agree with that. I'm not hearing anything behind the scenes that says there's a fight brewing.
Why do people keep talking about it?
Because people keep talking about
it. You got nothing else to talk about.
Because Dale brought it up. I don't know.
Garland Gudger brought it up. Take it up with him.
That's the bottom line.
The media in this state don't know what to ask lawmakers at the state level because they're stupid and they go to gambling's their default.
And
I feel personally attacked.
And because it does, because it comes up every friggin' year. I mean, it's the zombie legislation. It just does. But I'm glad it's not, because maybe we'll actually get some of these good low-hanging fruit kind of red meat bills done while they have the opportunity. All right, speaking of which, let me ask you this. My question is, Tennessee just yesterday, after coming out of their special session and passing school choice, which we've done too, but Tennessee yesterday just passed illegal immigration reform at the state level, which includes sanctuary city stuff and everything. It's going to the governor's desk. Is Alabama going to follow suit and have illegal immigration dealt with again, like we did back in 2011, here at the state level? Dale?
Yeah, I think they're gonna make a move on that. I think they're gonna do something because it's low hanging fruit. That's simple. That's a no brainer. Get out there and do that. That is a very simple thing to get into, and get a good win there. Yeah, why not?
I say why not, but you know what? There's a lot of things I say why not about them, and I see them just not happen. So there's no better time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Jeff, your thoughts? Again, what are you hearing down there in the halls of the State House? Are they going to do illegal immigration?
Well, they had a committee hearing today. There were lots of protesters over this issue. But, yeah, there's certain things the state can do. I mean, you can't conduct business in the state of Alabama using illegal documents. They can make it really, really hard for illegal immigrants to operate in the state, and maybe some of that can be a deterrent. But there are some lawmakers, Senator, who are like, the hell with it. Let's go back to HB 56.
Yeah.
We have the federal judiciary now that is more, with all these Trump appointees, and you have an attorney general who's not, just a placeholder instead of Luther Strange having Steve Marshall, who might defend it a lot better. So why not take a shot at it?
Yeah, I completely agree. And for those who don't remember, HB 56 was the Beeson-Hammond Act that we passed in 2011. That was, we got protested to the nth degree. And it was probably one of the most active pieces of legislation I saw while I was down there, and then got picked apart by the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center and all the rest of them. I think it's an entirely different time, like you said. I think the judiciary, the public sentiment, all of it says now go back and put as much of it back in place as you can. So I think they will do something. I think they almost have to be honest with you. Otherwise, people are going to be screaming. Last question, round 2. Jeff, what you got?
Talk to me about Gaza. What do you make of it? I've formulated some ideas over the day, but nation building I didn't have on my Trump bingo card.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I've heard it already called Gaza-Lago, which is interesting. But I don't think it's going to happen that way. I can see where Trump could be willing to provide some of the billions in foreign aid it'll take to rebuild that place, but there's going to be stringers attached to it. I don't project that we're going to wind up, creating a Trump casino on the beach, looking out into the Red Sea. But I will say this: Trump is one of those outside the box guys who loves to rebuild. I mean, Mar-a-Lago was a derelict place that was been abandoned until he got it for a song and made it into a jewel. So this is what he does. He grabs pieces of property and he restores them. And I think he's taking that into his foreign policy right now. Dale?
Viva Las Vegas. That's what we're talking about. And let's go ahead and make that happen. I think this is just a Donald Trump had an idea situation, and he said it out loud. It's a negotiating tactic. I like it. I like how he's talking about this. Something's got to be done there. He's throwing down the gauntlet, scaring a lot of people, and maybe they'll be more willing to make a deal. And look, that's his whole thing right now, right? I'm crazy. I might do it. And like that's sort of his whole thing, and why not run with it? I like this idea.
Well, Jeff, it's your own question. You finish it off. What do you got?
So we have Breitbart. We have a Jerusalem bureau, and talking to those guys, they think it is just a negotiating tactic. It's a bluff, but it's this. Like, what does the Arab world think of a U.S. presence in Gaza? It would be a disaster, right? The problem they've had, though, it's just that these Arab nations do not want any buy-in. They don't want to deal with this, and they're not taking refugees. And what they think it is sort of forcing Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and some of these other places to play a more of an active role, because if they don't get in the game, well, the United States going to get in the game, and that's probably not going to end well historically.
I would agree with that. I think I think you're going to watch Egypt suddenly have to open the gates on their southern border of Gaza and allow some more trade and all. Fellas, I'm going to leave it there. We got seconds before the music plays. Appreciate you both. That's Jeff Poor from FM Talk 106.5, 1819 News, and he just reminded us Breitbart. And then we got Dale Jackson up yonder at WVNN in Huntsville, host of the Dale Jackson Show. Also writes with Yellowhammer and has a TV gig as well. Appreciate you both here on the Grand Council. And just little old me working here at Rightside Media. All right, listen, we got plenty more where that came from. And I'm going to tell you right now, you guys, the new sponsor for the Grand Council, DeKalb MD. When I get back to break, I got to tell you about them, because this is medicine done the way you haven't seen it before. If you haven't heard of this, I am proud to have them for a sponsor. Talk about outside the box, that is them. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Philadelphians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about from Huntsville back all over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about Tuscaloosa over to Gadsden. I'm talking about all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn. And I do mean there's even big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi thrown in, all for good measure. So I got to tell you guys real quickly, the brand new sponsor on the show, we're glad to have them. You may have heard their ads already playing, but DeKalb MD. So DeKalb MD, listen, I got to know Dr. Chad Williamson here most recently. What a cool concept. He decided he was sick and tired of seeing people struggling with co-pays on insurance that sometimes paid and had to get things pre-qualified and yada, 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 yada. So DeKalb MD, with locations in Fort Payne and multiple locations in Chattanooga, DeKalb MD is a direct primary care. It's got a network of clinics located in Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, and they operate on a monthly membership. So you basically pay, no insurance required, you pay like $75 a month, and you get all kinds of stuff. I mean, you get no wait times, longer visits with your medical provider, you get after-hours access, no additional cost. You get a direct phone number to call or text your provider. You get $1,000 worth of medications that can be mailed to your house. All these things happen. And DeKalb MD is basically, it's like joining a gym. You pay a membership and then doctoring just happens. That is just cool, y'all. So DeKalb MD, they work with you instead of your insurance. And they also are a primary care with you in mind. So you can find out more about them. DeKalbMD.com, that's their website, www.dekalb, D-E-K-A-L-B, DeKalbMD.com. Schedule an appointment today, find out more about them. But yeah, we're thankful they're the sponsor of the Grand Council now, and we're glad to have them on board. Let me go to the phones. Is that Jeff Rowe? Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing real good, especially if I could have a sky crane about right now.
Sky crane. You talking about the helicopter sky crane?
Well, yeah, that's the only thing big enough to lift this thing up.
Do you know that I've actually jumped out of a sky crane?
Oh, cool.
I have. They used to sling what they called a troop carrying pod underneath it. It was like strapping a school bus to the bottom of a helicopter, and we jumped out of it. Man, those sky cranes are incredible.
Those big rotors, ain't they?
Oh, Lord. I mean, that was the biggest thing in the inventory. But, yeah, that's what it would take to fly you over Nashville and home. It would. Good luck.
Yeah, I could use one. But, hey, talking about this, I guess Trump just signed this thing so that only women can be in women's sports.
Yeah.
But what I'm worried about is this goes both ways. Does trans men have to play women's sports? A female that has transitioned to a male, because, like I say, my friend has a daughter I would describe her as almost like a pixie. She was real small, skinny, petite. And now she's bulked up with a beard, and I mean, she's probably got more. I guarantee she's got more testosterone than what I've got.
You know what? I didn't dissect the order because it was happening while I was on the air, so it wasn't like I could read it. But I'm pretty sure it just bans the idea of non-biological, folks participating in the sport in which they identify. That's I think that's out overall.
Yeah, but like I say, if it was just women going into women's sports, and everything, she's technically a woman, born that way and everything, but then she's jacked up on all this testosterone, so it'd be like fighting the Russians back in the day, when hell could come in with a beard, no, I'm not on any steroids.
Steroids and human growth hormone and whatever else they could pump in there, some kind of, things that they grow horses with, but
exactly.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure. I am pretty sure that they made this across the board, that the idea of transgenderism in sports is out. I could be wrong, but I think so.
Yeah, I hope it's not that way. Hey, I guess old Sleepy Joe's going to Hollywood now.
Did you hear that? I heard that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Have you heard what their project he's going to work on?
No. Have you? What?
He's going to be in commercials.
Oh no.
The first one he's doing one for Grey Poupon, where they drive up. It's going to be him and Dr. Fauci driving up together in their limousines and saying, "Pardon me, sir," and he goes, "Oh, I thought I already pardoned you. By the way, do you need some of this Grey Poupon for your sandwich?"
You are not right. You have too much time in that truck to sit around and think of stuff like that. That is just unbelievable.
Well, when you're in 6 lanes of traffic moving about 2 miles an hour, yeah, I got plenty of time.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I heard. So for those who didn't hear, Peter Doocy asked Trump during one of Trump's many pressers, he's allowing the press into the Oval Office and he's sitting there signing stuff. And then Doocy says, "Have you heard, sir, that former President Joe Biden just signed with a talent agency?" And he was like, "No, I have not heard that." And then Trump said something like, "I think he's got bigger problems than that, but I wish him well." And I got to thinking, what does that mean?
Maybe he could do some commercials for that sleep thing. He does that quite well.
Listen,
the natural.
I just think that, first of all, okay, I get it. Talent agents, they're probably going to be doing things like helping to get documentaries done about him or whatever else. But I really think that they're at risk if they put him in front of a camera and they expect him to get paid now, because that means they're going to want a product. We paid him, but we didn't get a product. I'm pretty sure that the private sector people that film documentaries, they actually want somebody to speak coherently.
Yeah, and the Chinese don't support him anymore either, so he's a lame duck to them.
And there is that.
I don't think he's going to get much money there.
Well, maybe they can help sell some artwork with, Hunter or something. Who knows?
Hey, there you go. Maybe when he'll sign on to a talent agency.
hey, real quick before we go, did you hear JP's newest sound effect for us for the Doge?
Oh yeah, that's pretty good stuff, man.
Yeah, I cracked myself up
Who
doing
let
that.
Doge out?
All right, listen, you have a safe trip. We will talk to you tomorrow, and if a sky crane comes overhead, just know that I'm the one that ordered it for you. All right?
Well, there you go. I sure could use it.
All right,
have a good one,
see you,
Phil.
man. Take care. Yeah, I did jump a sky crane multiple times. I think at one point I jumped everything in the military inventory that was available for jumping. I jumped rotary wing. I jumped Blackhawks, Hueys, sky cranes, and Chinooks, all of them. As far as I know, you don't jump little birds, so that didn't happen. And you don't jump Apaches and stuff like no, so that didn't happen. But I did also fixed wing. I've jumped C5, C-17, C-130s multiple times. I can't tell you how many, and C-141s, obviously. And then I jumped, oh gosh, what was it called? Oh, well, you know what? They called it Shamu, but it was an old twin prop that they don't have anymore. The only one that I did not get to was we had an OV-10 Bronco, which used to be a twin boom-tailed, basically surveillance aircraft, and you could take the back off of the crew pod, and they would tilt up, and you would just slide out the back. And I never got to jump that one. That's the one that I missed.
Yeah.
But, we prided ourselves of finding unique aircraft to jump out of, all static line, which meant you just hooked up and hoped for the best when you went out. All right, listen, we got plenty of stuff on tap. I did not even get to all my home fries segment, but I got a couple things in the stack that we're probably going to have to share before the day's over, because Governor Ivey did give our State of the State. We did find out that in the middle of it all, she plans to focus on education, one of which is she says she wants legislation that would ban the idea of kids having smartphones in school. And I thought, I didn't see that coming. That was not the one that I thought was going to be there. But that did cross the desk, apparently, and the governor has now incorporated that as part of one of her legislative agenda items, is she wants smartphones out of the classrooms. Florida did that, didn't they? Didn't Florida do that? Or was it social media that I was thinking of?
Florida, I think you're correct.
I think they did. But the reality is, it's a huge distraction. It's also the kind of things that, kids use to cheat. but then it's also something that becomes that bullying place where kids are in class snapping pictures of each other and then, doctoring the picture and sending them out on their social media, and people are laughing in the hallways. It's got so many side problems. And I understand parents are going to go, what do we do? How do we contact our children? You know what? It's only been in the last 20 years that's even been a thing. For the rest of history, kids have gone to school without a phone in their hand. So I'm pretty sure they'll be fine. But we'll see. I don't know. Y'all tell me what you think about it. You can text me to 833-687-4448. Was that something you think is worthy of legislative time? No cell phones in the classroom? It's got legs. The governor wants it. We'll see if they're going to pass it. And I'm also wondering, by the way, who's going to hire the lobbying firms to keep it from happening? What entity is going to say, no, we can't have that. It goes against our corporate interests. And I don't know who that would be. It's not like you're stopping the sale of phones.
Yeah.
And they don't operate anymore off of plans that use up minutes, so they get paid by the minute. Now you just have a plan in general and have a phone.
That's interesting, but also, and Red from Tony just texted in. This is a good thought. They said no smartphones. They didn't say no phones.
Oh,
flip phones, maybe.
What's that one they had advertised? The Jitterbug.
Yeah,
the Jitterbug phone, the little flip phone.
Yeah,
with the big fat buttons on it.
Yeah, that's. I think using a flip phone might be worse for kids than not having a phone at all. So but yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. My initial thought was kind of like, really, that's the one that's the one you want to rally the troops behind. That just seems kind of like an odd one to me. I don't know. It's that sounds like they don't have much else to. Seems like and you talked about this yesterday. It seems like that translates to we don't have much else to get excited about.
Well, right now we're looking at the Speaker of the House in Alabama, Ledbetter, said that he does not see us doing expansion of Medicaid, which I am so glad to hear that, and I hope that he holds to it, because Medicaid expansion, the Hospital Association wants that so bad they can hardly stand it. But it would also incur a huge amount of debt to the state of Alabama, which already pays, I want to say 30% roughly of the general fund budget goes to Medicaid already. And if we expand Medicaid, which means we put more people on the roll, all we're doing is creating additional entitlements that, the federal government helps you at first, but then you pick up more and more of the tab as time goes by. So if Medicaid's not on tap, if gambling's not on tap, then we're getting down to let's go ahead and define what women are and go to the House. Pass the budgets and go to the House.
And then play defense.
We'll see. All right, and some of y'all are texting about my aircraft. So Bill from North Alabama says it was a Sherpa, Phil. Okay, you know what? That does seem familiar. And then Dave from Hazel Greens, hey, Phil, it was a C-7 Caribou. It was a Caribou. It was, because I think it was a C-7 Caribou. And it was one of the last in the inventory flown by 20th Special Forces Group guys. And we called it Shamu. And Shamu was a hoot, man. First time I jumped it. They come out there and they go, all right, who here hadn't jumped Shamu? And I raised my hand. All right, come on over here for your Shamu briefing. I was a jump master. I'd never heard anybody say, come over here for your Shamu briefing.
Shamu briefing.
They called it Shamu. They'd even painted the aircraft in camouflage, but in the pattern of a killer whale. It was very cool. Anyway, so we get on Shamu, which is old, and as the ramp comes down on the back of Shamu, there's a bumper sticker on the ramp that says, no kidding, it said, what the hell, it runs. And I was like, oh. And we get on, he goes, okay, here's your special Shamu briefing. Shamu's old. Ain't going to be around much longer. You smell a lot of smoke, you see a lot of smoke, don't worry, that means we still got oil. It's okay. It also sounds like an old Harley Davidson. Do not worry, it always sounds that way. Here's the other thing. The jump commands may change. If you see me yelling, go, 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 and I haven't given you any prior jump commands, that means we're going down, you need to get out. And we're all just staring at him, and he goes, have a good Shamu jump.
Quite the Shamu briefing.
It was quite the jump, though. It was a good jump. All right, listen, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back, clean up a few text messages, and head to the house. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Hey, by the way, I tell you who else has got some superpower right now is Doge. The Doge, man. So there's Elon Musk just retweeted something. I've got no background for it. I don't know any more about it than what I'm about to say, indicating that Doge can see that over time, $84 million went to the Clinton Foundation, which has been a notorious failure in Haiti. It was a dry hole in terms of getting anything really done. And if that's the case, I think Chelsea Clinton is the one who runs the foundation, isn't it? Isn't she?
I think so.
Yeah, that's going to be an epic story if we see it. I'm waiting to find out more, but there's a brand new sound effect in the repertoire of sound effects that we have here at Rightside. Thank you to JP. JP, is the volume ready for it? I mean, are you set to go? We're like okay. So Doge is at work. What does that mean?
Doge. Doge.
That cracks me up. That's great, man.
That's a good
That is, I think that may be my new favorite sound effect. And it's, by the way, that's Elon Musk's voice saying Doge,
that's
right?
Elon, yes.
One more time, just because, but can. Just go ahead and do it. Go.
Doge. Doge.
Oh, that's so good. You know what? I think you're gonna be famous.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna want that. We gotta make sure that we trademark that. That is ours.
We gotta make money off of it. If we're gonna,
By golly.
yeah.
Good job, man. That's awesome. Let me get a few text messages before I run out of time. Sam from Priceville says, "What about the CH-53 Sea Stallion?" Said I worked on it, and the H3. No, I never jumped out of a Sea Stallion. But that one was not available to me. So, yeah, that's the Jolly Green basically, but in the Navy category. Red from Tony, Alabama says my kids are going to get flip phones. There you go. Let's square that away right now. And you can text like we used to, where you have to do the same button 3 times to get to the letter you want. There you go. Ian from Hartselle says, political leaders are much like our leaders in the workplace. They always pick the low-hanging fruit, but I'm for all students not having cell phones at school. Okay. I think that was a backhanded compliment, but okay. Good enough. Ron from Tuscumbia, Alabama says, Biden could be cast as Magoo. Oh, Mr. Magoo. Biden does have a new talent agent, so maybe he could be Mr. Magoo. Awesome. He could also just go ahead and stand in for the mannequin that Jeff Dunn uses. That could work.
Yeah, he could be a lot of things. Not a lively character. A lively character is not one of them.
No, he's not. He's not going to be. He's not going to be in an action movie.
Mm-mm.
I don't see him coming up in Expendables #7.
No, I don't see that at all.
Scott from Somerville, Alabama says, I support banning phones in schools. I question how it can be enforced. When I was in school, the math teachers were trying to stop calculators. Yeah. Yes. And then there was also the classes where you had to go buy the special calculator, like the kind that, I don't know, could tie your shoes and stuff too. It was crazy. And now you can do every bit of it on your cell phone. But yes, Scott, I do recall that. Bob from Madison says, I flew on a C-7 Caribou to work and back for 2 years, a very short takeoff aircraft. Yep, it was a stolen aircraft, short takeoff and landing. John from Huntsville has the grades. He says, Dale Jackson and Jeff Poor both get an A- for their equally just okay performances. Jeff from Indiana gets an A+ for his awesome acting skills. JP was today's solo winner for his amazing Doge sound effect until I had to deduct 10 points because of his final grade, not saying how beautiful the city of Auburn is, which makes JP and Phil today's co-winners with an A++. All right, you guys are an amazing audience, and we do this every single day because of y'all, and we appreciate you more than you could possibly know. Hey, there's more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see